Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Like back here with another YouTube video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing another one of these Let's Talk About another comic book character. And it's going to be Mr. Freeze. Now, Mr. Freeze is a supervillain, pretty much. Or some people like to say he's misunderstood. I'll kind of elaborate a bit more on that. But Mr. Freeze is pretty much he versus Batman most of the time. But anyways, let's get into this. So, Mr. Freeze, let's actually, if you're unfamiliar with exactly what this is, pretty much I just dive into a character analysis of the character that I am talking about. And in this case, it's going to be Mr. Freeze, and I just do a quick character analysis. And it's kind of like explaining the characters a bit. Uh, yeah. It's kind of like explaining the characters a bit, doing a brief history on the character and stuff like that. I tend to do these more of a character analysis, arcs and stuff. A lot of stuff to talk about, like messages and stuff between that behind the character and stuff. Uh, and yeah. Anyways, we've already done Silver Surfer and I've already done the Punisher. Now I'm moving on to Mr. Freeze. He's going to be a DC character here. But anyways, let's get into this. So, Mr. Freeze, also known as Victor Fries, that's his real name, or yeah, that's his real name pretty much. Let's just quickly talk about his first appearances quickly. So he was originally known as Mr. Zero uh, back in February of 1959. He was known as Mr. Zero. He's a frost-based villain, pretty much. Like he didn't have any name or anything at the time. He was just called Mr. Zero. He pretty much uses ice powers and stuff like that, like the same kind of thing he does now. He was called Mr. Zero. The name Mr. Freeze actually debuted in Batman Instant Freeze in February 2nd, 1966. So about 7 years later, give or take, he got renamed back to Mr. Freeze, what we know him now. So the character itself is pretty old. I mean, I think it's over 50 years old now. So yeah, there's that, of course. But at the time, Mr. Freeze didn't have an actual like name or anything. He was just known as Mr. Freeze. No, I don't think anybody really knew exactly what his backstory and stuff was, and that's where his character kind of became definitely a lot better. And in my personal opinion, I felt like the character got so much better as he was finally known as now Victor Fries, pretty much, which was his real name, as he actually got that name in Batman the Animated Series, Heart of Ice episode, September 7th, 1992. So, pretty recently, I'm pretty sure that's like 29 years from years, approaching 29, I believe. So, yeah, there's that, of course, as well. Uh, which I find really interesting. And that's when his character got a little bit more better because a lot of people probably who grew up during the 80s and was reading their comics and stuff probably thinks of Mr. Freeze as some goon villain. But per se, if you grew up in the 90s, you would have seen what exactly he's gone through trauma wise and just exactly why he acts the way he does. As you could also see, especially with uh, especially with the fact of what he does in like various forms of media and stuff like that. That's something I've always been like with Mr. Freeze, in my personal opinion, growing up and stuff like that. I always kind of felt kind of bad for him, but I didn't really like the stuff he was doing at the same time. Uh, let's just go over his abilities. He has a genius level intellect. He's very smart. Sub Zero Sub-Zero psychology, which pretty much means he can stay at a low temperature. That's hence why he is the way he is, especially why he wears a tube and stuff around him. Just for the fact that he's unable to breathe normal air because he was in an accident and made him now Mr. Freeze pretty much. Uh, Battle suit, he grants durability and strength, and he uses cryogenic weaponry, also known as like freeze guns and stuff like that. Uh, Yeah, so let's just talk about his quickly his backstory. So Victor Freeze was at least his most famous backstory, I guess I'll say, because he might have multiple backstories, but let's just go off the one that's most popular. So Victor Fries was pretty much a cryogenics expert in Gotham City. He was trying to pretty much cure his wife named Nora, who was, I think she had cancer. She was sick, and he pretty much thought that freezing her would make her live longer because she was on the brink of death pretty much, but he froze her to try and find a cure for her condition, and he worked tirelessly until eventually he decided to pretty much freeze himself along with Nora, and pretty much that's how he became Mr. Freeze. I've heard some backstories indicate like the lab kind of fired him, or like the lab they decided to stop him or something. They told him not to do that or something like that, but he didn't care anyways. He only cared about his wife, so I think he like froze himself and killed all of them, or something like that. And that caused Batman to be a little bit annoyed with him and stuff like that, which is kind of not understandable. I mean, that's kind of bad, but you kind of understand where he's coming from. I mean, the man just wants to see his wife come back, because if you realize in a lot of media, various forms of media, he's always trying to find a goal to be finding a cure for his wife. Like he always tries to find ways to kind of survive, like cure his wife. You could see that especially in some of the various forms where he's like, "I request a DNA sample of your blood just so I can help my wife," for example, right? Which I definitely think is really good as well. Uh, yeah, so there's that as well, and I think that's very sad as well because he's always like depicted. I mean, he is technically a bad guy. I mean, he's robbing banks, killing people and stuff like that. But of course, you kind of understand where he's coming from, especially if you have a wife yourself or a husband or whatever it is, uh, and you really love them and stuff like that. You understand why he's doing this and stuff like that. So there's kind of a thing you could see along with his character, and I mean he's not like a super psychopath where he's like the Joker going on killing sprees or anything like that. I'm not gonna say he's killing because he has to, but at the same time, it's like, oh, like you kind of gotta kill this guy because he's in the way and stuff like that. And I feel like this character is very broken and stuff like that. He's a part of the definition of being a broken villain kind of thing, or a broken character, if I might say so. So there's of course that and stuff like that. Yeah. So, anyways, my character analysis. I think he's a really cool character. I think Mr. Freeze is definitely an excellent character. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.